Let's hit the high road. Let's hit the high road. It's the first touch, strong connection. It lays deep in your soul. Feel the kindness strongly coming, 'cause you can achieve your goal. Let's hit the high road. Let's hit the high road. Let's hit the
Hi, this is Nancy Earl, and welcome to Nancy's Psychic View on the High Road to Humanity. And today I have a lovely lady, Raechel Henderson's here. Raechel, where are you joining me from today? Where are you?
I'm from Wyoming.
Oh,
We're in the cold West.
yeah. Well, welcome to the High Road.
Thank you.
I'm
It's
so
great to
glad
be
you're here.
here.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're here. This is a cool book she's bringing me. You can see all my little notes here, guys. So you know it's going to be a fun show. She has put together a book called The Natural Home Wheel of the Year. And within this, there's so much information. And just let me give you a little bit of information about what we're going to talk about today. And then I do have some headlines I want to read. So she invites the Sabbats into your home naturally and creates a vibrant wheel of the year tradition with this book of crafts, activities, and recipes. And there's some great recipes. And she does it for each season. Okay. And she shows us how to put an altar together, journal prompts, food ideas, decorations, suggestions. I mean, it's really cool. And she does it in a way that you can get like materials from home. And I think that's the coolest thing I liked about this book, and so we're going to get into it. She is a pagan and she is very eccentric, she says. She's followed an eccentric path. She does work with Hestia and Turtle in her magical practice. She contributes articles to Llewellyn's almanacs and calendars. She blogs about magic, creativity, living by your own patterns. She's written a couple other books. She's the author of So Witchy and the Scent of Lemon and Rosemary. And here we go. She is in Wyoming. I should know that. Okay. Well, it's going to be fun, you guys. This is a beautiful book. But I want to talk really quickly about Biden and the border and Texas and Governor Abbott and this whole struggle. And, I'm bringing it to everybody's attention because here's the headline. The Biden administration escalates its border disputes with Texas after 3 migrants drowned. And this is the deal. I've lived in Texas and I have seen the Rio Grande and I've lived in New Mexico. And so I know what it's like to cross the Rio Grande. And these people are really, this is a dangerous thing when they try to cross. But it says this comes from the AP. Associated Press. The drowning deaths of 3 migrants have brought new urgency to an extraordinary showdown between the Biden administration and Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott, who has seized a city park in a major corridor for illegal crossings and denied entry to Border Patrol agents. So the Department of Justice filed a new request late Monday with the Supreme Court to grant federal agents access to this portion of the border along the Rio Grande that is occupied by the Texas National Guard and the Texas Military Department. The request followed the drownings of a young Mexican mother and her 2 children who tried to enter the U.S. through the river near Shelby Park at Eagle Pass, Texas. And I just want to send prayers to Texas, to the family, to the lady, to her children. All of this is just a mess, and we have to get some kind of order down there. And so I want to bring it to people's attention. We got to stop people coming across in this manner that a child and 2 children and their mother were drowned. I mean, regardless of what Biden and Abbott have, going on here, and I understand both sides of it. I always like to look at both sides of the coin, but people are souls, people are people, and this has become dangerous. So do you want to say anything about this?
Oh no, I think that you covered it really well.
Thank you. Well, we need to know this has got to stop. This is inhumane on so many levels. The other thing I want to talk about is, and I grew up in Ohio and Michigan. And so I worked for General Motors at one time and love the car industry. I have family that still works there. But this whole electric car thing has been a real, I don't know. I think people just don't know what to think about it. Some people are on board, some people aren't. But here's the headline: Chicago area Tesla charging stations lined with dead cars in freezing cold. A bunch of dead robots out there. Despite Tesla owners in and around Chicago, we've seen trying to charge their vehicles with no luck amid frigid temperatures that have gripped the Midwest. And I just want to say briefly, I grew up in Michigan and Ohio. It gets cold. What were they thinking? Did they not realize that these things wouldn't function in the cold? So anyway, having said that, I don't know, Raechel, what do you think? Are you up for the electric car, or what do you think?
I think that there's a place for electric cars. I
Hmm.
agree. I don't think they would do very well in the winter out here in Wyoming, again, because yeah, it gets cold.
Yeah, and then they won't function. And the whole idea is that we can get from point A to point B. Whether it's rail, maybe we should go to railway. I mean, that's what they do in
I
Europe.
would love that. I
Wouldn't
think
you?
railway would be great.
Yeah, I've ridden the Amtrak. All right, one more thing I'm going to say before we get into your book, and that's because I'm going to be in LA next month, and it's coming up very quickly. I'm going to be at the Conscious Life Expo. It's the 22nd Expo. It's in LA. It's at the LAX Hilton. I will be there Saturday evening. I'm going to do a workshop on angel communication and spiritual law. Please come and see me. It's a free event. I'm going to give everybody their wings, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, Raechel, let's get into this. I
Okay.
want to know, have you always been a crafter? Have you always been a person that did crafts? You say water is the E3000 glue, air is your glitter, fire is your glue gun, and earth is clay. I mean, have you always done crafts or what?
Yeah, I come from a very crafty family. I come from a family of makers. So my grandmother, uh, she would make toys, soft toys for us kids. She would make clothes. My mother sews and crochets and knits. I have plenty of family who would get into woodworking, fiber arts. Just we come from a family where my grandmother would preserve. They had a half-acre garden and orchard,
Yeah.
and she had lockers just full of food that she preserved from the garden. So we
Mhm.
always were a very crafty, make do sort of family.
Yeah. Well, I grew up with the orchard too, the apple orchard and the big garden. But and my mom canned and all of that, but she wasn't crafty. I never learned that kind of thing. Now I have a daughter that is. But this is so cool. Well, I want to get right into this because I don't know, and you explain, but I want you to tell the audience, or I can read this, but it says here, what are the sabbats? Am I pronouncing that right
Yeah,
properly?
Sabbath. Yeah.
Okay, so the wheel of the year refers to the cyclical natures of the season, but if the seasons are the wheel, then the sabbats are the spokes. Can you talk about
Mhm.
this? Okay.
Yeah, this is the Wheel of the Year is a concept that mostly came up around the early 1900s and has it was it's taking various festivals and fire festivals, and the equinoxes and the solstices, and putting them in this kind of calendar, which is a cyclical seasonal calendar, as opposed to like the calendar that we use now, where you have months and your days and your months. This is one that taps into the cycles of the season.
Hmm.
So the Sabbats are the equinoxes and the solstices.
Hmm.
Those are the main spokes. And then you have in between them, you have these are Celtic fire festivals that people have celebrated forever. And the main spokes, the solstices and the equinoxes, they coincide with the major holidays that you would be familiar with now. So like Yule is Christmas, Oyster is Easter,
Easter, yeah.
that sort of thing. Samhain is Halloween. So these are holidays that we are already familiar with that have some ancient roots, and it's just bringing those ancient roots into a system that we can use in a modern day concept to tap into the energies of the earth and the energies of the seasons and live kind of a more seasonal cyclical lifestyle as opposed to being trapped in these calendars where, you know, you
Yeah.
have your week and your weekdays and your weekends and all of that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you did this. And that was, I could tell from you telling us that that was your whole passion behind this, wasn't it?
It is. I really feel like our time rushes so fast
True.
that having something that can be touchstones that allow us to just kind of pop our heads up out of our daily grind and go, oh, yeah, it's spring. Let's
Yeah.
celebrate that spring is happening. Let's celebrate that it is the end of the long, dark season and that sort of thing. I think that it allows us to have celebrations in our life that aren't tied to the calendar that we're used to,
Right.
and we can give them meaning.
Right. I want to read something out of your book, if it's
Oh,
okay.
okay.
I love this, The Holly King and the Oak King. And I won't read the whole thing, but I want to read just, well, I'll read the whole thing. What the heck? Check this out, you guys. This is cool. Sit back for a minute. The story of the Holly King and the Oak King is one with ancient origins in Celtic mythology. It is a story of two seasonal and natural forces that have been locked in battle since the beginning of time. In the story, the Holly King is at the height of his powers at midwinter, and at this time, the Oak King is reborn. The two battle at the spring equinox, with the Holly King being defeated, and the Oak King rules throughout the spring and summer, with the Holly King being born again at midsummer. They engage in battle during the autumn equinox, and the whole cycle begins anew. I love this. And then she goes on to say, listen to this. The story of rebirth and renewal reminds us that the seasonal cycle is never ending and that the seeds of future crops lie in the dark soil. There isn't any good or bad when it comes to the wheel of the year. The dark is as necessary as the light.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh, thank
Really
you.
beautiful. Yeah. Well, and I'll just say it as I was looking through your book, gosh, we need to get back to basics. You know,
Yeah.
we really do. Um, in here, I mean, I'm not going to give away all your ideas, but I'm going to give away a couple of, okay. She does have templates. I want you guys to pick this book up because I think it's cool. In the back here are, let's see, page 239 to 257. And I just want to show this because I marked it. There are templates, you guys, to make like snowflakes. And this is cool. I just thought this was really neat to make all different things. Look, you can make your spirit animals and stuff like that too. I just thought that was really cool. I also want to say you give like all these different tidbits, like wine corks are plastic now, and you use those for stamps for decorating. Do you have
Mhm.
like something like what do you make with that? Is there something that
I use it for I'll make Yule cards. So instead of Christmas cards, I send out Yule cards. And so
nice?
I'll use the wine corks to make little stamps. There's a project in there to make like a tree of life with using the wine corks and making leaf stamps. My big thing is we as a society, we make so much stuff. Like we have so much leftover packaging,
We do.
empty toilet paper rolls, wine corks, and the all the other packaging that comes with our daily needs.
Well, look at
That
Amazon alone. I mean, not to interrupt your
yeah,
train of thought. I have so much packaging and boxes from Amazon. It's absolutely
right,
crazy. Right? You
right,
too. Yeah.
yeah. And I feel like rather than having that go into the landfill, that
Right.
it is better to then reuse and treat it as materials for creativity.
Mm.
Because otherwise we're just adding more garbage to the environment. And uh, I feel like one of my goals with this book was to show people and maybe get them looking at things differently and looking at their waste
Yeah.
uh, as craft supplies.
No, you're exactly right. I have to say, I moved about a year ago. And when I moved, I realized how much stuff I accumulated and that I didn't need. And we are really a wasteful society. But throughout your book, there was, I came upon this page and I was so excited. Page 13, removing labels from jars. She tells you how to do it. I have always wanted to know how to do this. And can I tell him? Is it okay?
Oh yeah, please go
Okay,
ahead.
so she says, commercial chemical like Goo Gone can be used to remove labels, which I've done that, but it doesn't seem to work as good. A chemical-free alternative, which I like, involves hot water, dish soap, baking soda, and vinegar. And you just, because it's more of a natural solution. And she says you take a half a cup of baking soda, a tablespoon of dish soap, and 2 cups of white vinegar. And I won't give the whole thing, but I just think that's phenomenal because there's always these really cool jars that you want to
Mhm.
keep, but you can never get that label off of there.
Yeah, and
You know?
as a pagan, that's one of the, and I'm a witchy pagan. So as a witchy pagan, there is this um there's
What's a
this
witchy
joke that
pagan? Well, wait a minute. What's a witchy pagan? What's the difference? Because I'm a
um
Celt, I don't know. What's the
yeah,
difference?
um I believe in magic, and I
I did,
believe,
okay.
I will cast spells, and I will work magic and use my intention to put out my to try to change my circumstances to my will.
Okay.
And you can be a pagan, not be a witch, and you can be a witch and not be a pagan. So I'm both, because I also, like, I work with Hestia, who is the Greek goddess of the hearth. Um, so, there's some of that deity is in with my magic. And there's this joke that if you want to attract a witch, all you have to do is put out a box that says free jars on it,
It says
because we
free what?
all free jars.
Free jars.
We
Okay.
love jars. We
Oh,
love them. I don't know what it is. It's almost pathological. And so when I wrote the book, I wanted to give people alternatives,
yeah.
and environmentally conscious alternatives, so that they could clean up their jars. Because, yeah, there's a lot of cool jars out there that could be
Well,
reused.
yeah. And God, I must have been a witch before because the other thing that I pulled out was this.
Yeah,
And
I love that. I love the little tin
tell
can
the audience
votives.
about this, what this is. This is
That
beautiful.
is a tin
Beautiful.
can votive. It's, you take your tin can and you just punch holes in it the with a nail,
How do
and
you
then
make
you
it
can
this
put
color? How do you make it look like this?
that. I removed all of, you remove all the labeling and you clean it up, and that is the natural color of the can underneath.
Oh,
Um
beautiful.
yeah,
Well, I,
and
go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh, it's a fun little craft that you can do that just provides it changes your view. And I also, witches love candles.
I know.
So yeah, so candles, and you have candle holders everywhere and candles everywhere, and I love the little sparkling lights that comes from that craft when you put your candle in it.
I love it. I love it. I think the word witch gets um, I don't know. People think of it for some reason, it's gotten like a bad, thing about it. And it's just a practice. Because when you
Yeah,
say you do your magic, it's like me doing affirmations.
yeah, exactly.
And I do it in an angelic way and you do it, in your way.
Mhm.
It's the same thing. It's just doing it and speaking of it differently. And I just want to talk about these lanterns a second. So I actually ordered, oh my gosh, and I could have made these myself, but didn't realize last couple years ago, I ordered lanterns and all they are, jars, like canning jars, glass, and they put
Mhm.
the handle on like you did. And then they put these little, they dropped these little LED lights in there and then put the lid back on. So if it rains, and I hang them from my trees.
That's lovely.
And it looks magical, you
Yeah.
guys. And when I saw this, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this. I'm absolutely going to do this. All right. There's so much in this book I have to talk about. You give rules for foraging, and I want to talk about that a little bit because I'm going to back up a little bit. When you go out and you collect things, you say, don't take from the first bush you see. Don't take from the last bush you see. Give us some of these ideas. What is the meaning behind all of this on the
Um,
foraging?
that the rules of foraging are these rules that have been developed to make sure that you don't over harvest and
Okay.
make sure that you leave some for other people.
I love
Um,
it.
it's another way to be very conscious about what you're doing and to be mindful, because there can be that tendency to go out and grab everything
Mhm,
and mine, 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 mine.
mhm,
And this reminds you that the earth is there for everybody.
right.
We are all stewards of the earth and we all share in the earth.
Mhm,
And so we should not be greedy. And so I put the rules in there because, especially, this book is meant for people who may not have have experience with any of this before, and so I want it to be very newbie friendly. And so
mhm.
I figured, letting people know ahead of time, uh, go out, have fun, forage, but be mindful as you do it.
Right. This takes me back to the Native Americans.
Mhm.
And in New Mexico, when you take something you from the land, you give back, and usually we give back tobacco is what
Yeah.
we usually carry a little tobacco with us to give back because that's what I was taught to do. And it's exactly, and I don't know if you talk about giving back, but it's when you take from the land, you almost need to return something. I feel. I don't know. What do you think
Oh
about
yeah, and
that?
that's very much a pagan practice as well, is giving back. I tend to do water. So if I'm
Okay.
taking from a bush, I will give it a little bit of water. Here's your
Uh-huh.
drink.
I like
There's also this idea of asking permission when you take something.
yes.
Say, can and giving thanks, saying, "May I take this?" Wait, to kind of get a feel for an answer, and then say thank you. And
Mm.
again, it's all about being mindful because we live such a fast-paced life and such a life where we spend so much time in our own heads
Yes.
that
We don't think.
uh right. And so this is an attempt to get people to stop and slow down and enjoy and be mindful about what is around them.
Mhm. I marked this because you're gonna laugh at me. I have dried flowers for so many years, and then I never end up doing anything with them. Oh my God. And this is making loose incense, and this really caught my eye. If you guys are watching me on YouTube, I hope you can see it. If you're listening to us on the podcast, you're gonna have to check out our book. But they're dried flowers upside down. And how do you, I mean, I don't want you to go into a whole thing, but I mean, is it easy to make an incense
Oh
from?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's super easy. Loose incense, all it is your herbs and your resins and your plant matter that you mix together. And you might want to, give it either with your hands, crush it up, or use a mortar and pestle because if you're using like some woody stuff, you're going to want to crush it up. And then they sell these little charcoal discs. You want to get the charcoal incense discs. You don't want to use like charcoal that you would use in a barbecue. But they have these
Right.
little discs
Right.
that you put in a fireproof container
Mhm.
and you light it, and it'll burn, and then you just sprinkle the incense on top of that, and then the smoke rises. I'm a big fan of loose incense because then you can make it exactly how you
Oh, I
want, with
want it.
the properties and the scents that are aligned with your purpose that you're using it for.
Oh, Rachel, thank you. You just taught me and the audience something really cool. I'm going to do that. Well, because I have lavender and all different things. And I have essential oils, but this is a little different,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
I feel that it's very accessible to people
Mhm,
because
mhm.
people usually are used to like either the little incense cones or the incense sticks,
Right.
and this is something that somebody can look at and go, "Oh, I can do that." I really want to encourage people that, yeah, you can do this. That's the crafts are the ones that I chose. I chose ones that would be relatively simple,
Mhm.
didn't require a whole lot of stuff to have
Right.
on hand, and
Right.
especially things that you could do with your kids,
Oh,
because I wanted there to be crafts that people could work together as a family
right.
if they so chose,
Yeah.
um, and get kids involved so that, starting them off, getting them off of the
The
iPads
games.
and the
Yeah.
phones and the games, and having some time where you can sit around and explain, this is why we're doing this. this is what this meaning is. This is why we're being mindful.
Very nice. I love it. Yeah, because my grandson's always on the games and my other grandson's always on the iPad. My granddaughter too, all of them. So yeah. Okay, so you put my favorite cookies in here, the thumbprint cookies. And
Oh,
it's a wonderful recipe for that. And what really delighted me more than anything was the homemade hot chocolate mix. Although I had to read it, so you make the your own mix. You use powdered sugar, which I didn't realize, and powdered milk, cocoa powder, and salt. Now, I don't use milk, but what it made me realize, and I want to ask you, so if I do my almond milk or my coconut milk, and I'm not making the blend, but I'm just making hot chocolate.
mhm.
So it's better to use the powdered sugar, isn't it?
The powdered sugar dissolves faster. Yes.
Yeah, see, that was my aha moment on that one. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So that was really cool. Oh, and here's your Yule card. She has all kinds of crafts in here, you guys. It's really cool. I mean, this is a really interesting book. There's so much stuff in here. You show how to make garlands. And I want to ask, because we're coming up on February, and I don't know so much about this, is it Imbolc?
Yep. In bulk.
Imbolc.
It-
And so so according to Laura O'Brien in her Irish book uh, of witchcraft, she says she talks about this. She says it falls February 1st or 2nd. This is a time of blessing your tools, your pets, your home. Coming out of the light encourages you to anoint and bless your home and family and yourself. Can you give us a little history on this?
yeah. This is one of those. It is a uh, festival of in bulk means you use milk. So
Oh,
EWE milk. And this is the time when the where you have lambing, where the sheep would start giving birth and they start producing the milk. And so this was the time where everything was starting anew. You
uh,
had these new baby lambs, the dark is finally giving way, you have light returning, and everybody is celebrating. It's still too early. You're still relying on your stores of food that you put up. There isn't like even fresh greens, like green plants that you can make a salad or anything. And this is a time of just you're hanging on. You're waiting for the last little bit of snow to clear away. And so what do? You prepare, you bless. You open your windows and your doors and you let that wind in to blow out that stagnant air and energy.
mm,
And you pull out your tools and you get ready. It's this very liminal time where you're in between spaces. You aren't ready to start working yet, but you're over rest. You're like, I'm done. I'm done with the winter. I'm tired of the snow. I'm
right,
tired of the cold. I'm
right.
ready for it to be spring. And so that was what our ancestors celebrated around this time was, all right, the lambs are coming, so now it's time to start blessing things. And just that not it's like the pre setup to
Before
actually.
spring. Before,
Yeah.
yeah, before spring. Do you even go to the grocery store?
Yes. Yes, I do.
I'm
um
just sitting here thinking, if anything happened in the world, I'm sure you're good to go. Is it hard for you to go to I mean, do you grow a lot of your own vegetables and stuff?
well,
I miss being on the farm. Let me just say this really quick. Growing up on a farm, I couldn't wait to get to the city. You know how kids are. And now I want to go back, to that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
We just moved back to Wyoming. I originally grew up in Wyoming and then I went to Illinois for
Okay.
20 some odd years, and we
Okay.
just last year moved back here. So I have my pots and everything set up. I grew a little bit last year, um, and discovered that the deer really like our pea plants. My husband was so mad because before he could even get to the peas, they'd be gone because the deer
Yeah.
would come through
Uh,
and forage on those. Um, but yeah, my intention is to I think anybody, even if you have like a small little herb garden, even if you just have a pot of basil or mint
Right.
on your windowsill,
Mhm.
that's you connecting to that and growing something. And I believe that everybody can do that. There is, even if you think that you are a black thumb, there is some plant out there that you can grow
That you
and
could do.
have that connection to earth.
Well, not okay, I'm a psychic and I am very intuitive, and I just feel like there's gonna come a time not too far off that we're gonna have to start growing our own stuff. And I think we should, and this is a good start, and making our own things. I wonder if you felt that way too, and that brought you back to your roots, kind of like me growing up and wanting to leave and then coming back. Did you feel that way? Is that what
I
happened?
I've always felt, because I'm very much concerned about thriftiness and frugality and making my own things, or prepping. If I get a tear in a piece of clothing, I'm gonna sew that up first. I'm not gonna just toss it in the garbage. I ended up moving back to Wyoming, mostly because when I was out in Illinois, I have a she's going to be 20 soon. But I had a daughter with my ex-husband and I had to stay in state. And once she turned 18, I wanted to move back to where my family was and where I felt like I could breathe.
Yeah,
Wyoming is the least populated state in the union, so
right.
there's not a lot of people.
I love it.
So I've got
So
I've
how
got
is it?
space.
You
I've
like
got
it?
space.
Okay.
Um, and I'm so happy to be back here. But yeah, I think
Okay.
that the way things are going, it's a good idea to learn a craft, to learn to how to replace a button or sew a rip, learn how to make your own pesto, learn
And
how to
it's
cook.
fun.
And yeah, it is, and it's cheaper
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Learning how to do these sort of things, you're gonna save money, but also it gives you a sense of resourcefulness and a
Yeah.
sense of confidence that I think, a lot of people are lacking right now because we're just so conditioned to just go to the grocery store, go
Right.
buy what we need.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's absolutely wonderful. You also have some recipes in here I just wanted to ask you about. I've never seen this before, lilac sugar.
Yeah. The recipe, it's you put your lilacs in the sugar and you let it rest for a little bit of time, and then your
Right.
sugar has not only a scent, but it has like the sweet lilac taste to it. It's just a little something to kind of
That's
bring, because
cool.
that's a around the time when the flowers are blooming, and it just kind of brings that into your house, and you can use it for tea, you can use it for baking. It's just a nice little thing to bring the outdoors in.
I like that. Well, I did mark Beltane because Beltane is most associated with pagan sexuality, it says. Well, it's spring. It's in the cycle of the goddess, So May Day. I always think of May Day and,
Mhm.
growing up, we always had the maypole.
Yeah.
Do kids still do that? I don't even know if they still do that.
I know that there are pagans who do that,
Yeah.
and it's an ancient practice
Yeah.
that then we adopted at a modern day, and then again, how the Will of the Year is trying to bring those ancient practices into a modern interpretation in a modern setting.
hmm I love it. There's so much stuff in here, you guys. I don't even, there's crystallizing sugared flowers.
Yes. So there are flowers you can eat, and so you can crystallize them with sugar and use them for the
Oh,
tops of your
cool.
cakes or cookies, or just eat them as just a little treat.
Yeah, and dandelion honey was another because I grew up with, you know, my dad like, oh, get rid of all the dandelions, but I grew up with millions of dandelions on the farm. Uh, but I've never really, and it's interesting because I picked up a magazine recently on herbs and it was talking about dandelions. And I think people they're weeds, but that yet they're not. I mean, talk about this a little bit.
Well, dandelions were brought over to North America by the Pilgrims. They brought them over they're used as a pot herb, because their leaves are eaten in salads, and you can make like the dandelion honey. I have a instructions in there on how you can sprout the seeds to make microgreens,
Oh,
and um, it's
I
this
didn't know
idea that
this.
Yeah, this idea that you look at something and you say, "Okay, that's a weed," but why is it a weed? Because we're so used to this idea of manicured lawns and having
Yeah.
the green grass, but that isn't natural.
Mm,
And I feel like we're moving to this idea, we're moving away from this idea of manicured lawns, of
mhm,
this artificial everything, to a much more natural state.
mm.
And dandelions are have all sorts of great uses. You can make tea from the roots. You dry out the roots and you roast them, and you make a tea that's a coffee supplement or replacement. You
Oh my
have they're a powerhouse, and yet we treat them as weeds because there's so many of them. And I think there's this idea that
we need to
it
get
has to
rid of
be
them because there's
right,
so
and
many.
it has to be scarce in order for it to be valuable. And I don't think that's the case. I think we are moving slowly but surely to a more um beneficial and more abundant mindset, where
Mhm.
we are looking at things and seeing abundance where we
Differently.
didn't see it before.
Well, yeah, because well, I know I have, but that's because 'cause I've gotten older and, I look at things completely differently. I don't there is no everybody likes nice things, but, people are more important, and stuff is not as important to me,
Yeah.
as it used to be. Like, yeah, I think when you grow up, you're all, "Oh, I want to accomplish and I want to do well, and if I have this kind of car or this kind of house, look at me." And I think we are getting away from that finally, which
Yeah.
is nice, which is super nice. It just came to me. I can see you putting together a cookbook of all these
Oh,
recipes.
I
I'm
I
ser
don't know if I'm I don't know if I'm that good at cooking. I mean, all of the recipes in there, most of them are recipes that I've been using for years,
well, yeah,
and
they're
so
great.
I know that they work.
Yeah.
Um, but I am adequate in the kitchen.
All right, well, let's
I do okay. Uh, my I have but I also have lots of bakers in my family
okay.
who just are phenomenal. Like my sister, every weekend is posting pictures on her Instagram of the stuff she's making, and I'm like, "That's I could never. You are awesome." Uh,
Everybody's got their own, yeah, their own forte. Well,
yeah.
the last one I'll talk about is Lammas. It refers to a Christian holiday in which a loaf of bread made from the first harvest grains was brought to church to be blessed. And it
Mhm.
falls around the same. Okay, so this is a Gaelic holiday. When is it? I'm not seeing the date. When is this fall? This is fall?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it's the first there's 3 harvest festivals, 3 harvest sabbats in the Wheel of the Year. The first
Okay.
one is Lammas, which is for grains.
Right.
So that's when they would pull in all of the grains and harvest all of the corn and barley and oats and the like. The
Okay.
second harvest is the harvest of fruits. That's Mabon, and that's when you'd be pulling in the apples and the other fruits of the orchard. And then the last one is Samhain, which is on Halloween, and that's the harvest of the souls. That is when many Celtic uh, cultures believe that the souls of the people who passed the year before get gathered up. And so you have that in it got Christianized, and so you have that with Souls Day and Saints Day and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Um, that harvesting is a very important part of the wheel of the year, because you need to gather in all of the stuff that you have sown all year long.
Right.
It's not an end to the process, it's the end of that cycle and the beginning of the new. A lot of pagans will actually celebrate their new year on Samhain, because that's the last, um, the final harvest. So whereas like our modern calendar sees January 1st as the start of the new year, for pagans it will be November 1st, because we're starting over with the dark of the night and the rest and
Which
everything.
makes more sense. It just does. I hate that everything's all topsy-turvy and it all got changed. Well, I'll tell you what, I love your book, Will of the Year.
Oh, thank you.
Raechel Henderson, you guys, this is what it looks like. Raechel, if people want to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you? How do they find you?
The best way to get in touch with me is Instagram. That's where I spend most of my time online.
Okay.
That is at Idiorhythmic, and I'll spell that out. It's IDIORHYTHMIC. It's a word that means living by one's own life patterns.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Living your own
it's my
life,
word.
being who you are.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you can find the book. It's available wherever books are available. You can buy it from the publisher, buy it online, go to, there are lots of metaphysical stores that you can order it through. I'm always inclined to tell people to order it through their metaphysical store
Yeah.
because that supports local. Um, and yeah, that's it. Instagram is the big way to get in touch with me, and my books are out there to be picked up.
Fantastic. I'm so glad you came. You're such a bright light
Thank you
in this
so much
crazy
for having
world.
me.
Oh, you're
Yeah,
welcome. You guys, this is what the book's like. Looks like Wheel of the Year, Raechel Henderson. All right, you guys, we're going to get out of here for today. If you do want an angel reading, go to my website, nancyyearout.com. You can check out all the podcasts there and all the shows also on that I do on YouTube. And you can also read the blogs and see all the messages that I've channeled from Archangel Gabriel. All right, you guys, we're getting out of here for today. I send love and light and blessings to everybody. Take care and have a great week.